It is a beautiful car. It's a beautiful line of cars, and I admire them for pushing design language forward without overreaching and trying to make it look space age.
Welcome back to Car-Pinionated, our weekly show on cars, the car industry, and driving in general. My name is Doug Stewart. I'm the digital executive producer for Fox 61 in Hartford. And joining me are Jeff Buchholz, writer and editor at WBBM in Chicago and car enthusiast, and Glenn Packman from beautiful Fairfield County, comedian and also a car enthusiast. Gentlemen, one of the electric car brands that we have is the Lucid, and they have had a very well reviewed sedan that they've been had out for about a year and a half, I think, more or less. Beautiful sedan, beautiful interiors, thoughtful. All the pieces really seem to come together very well, and they are on the verge of putting out their SUV. Jeff, what do you think of the Lucid Gravity?
I think it's gorgeous, and I think it's 5 years too late.
Yeah.
It is, like all Lucid products, absolutely beautiful. And if the interior is anything like the Lucid Air that I spent a little bit of time in this spring at the Chicago Auto Show, it is will be a really comfortable place to be. The problem with this, or the challenge for Lucid, is that it's coming to market at a time when there is a great deal of uncertainty about the future or the trajectory of electrification of cars and SUVs in the US. And I shouldn't say, I corrected myself kind of halfway through that sentence. I went from future to trajectory. Cars in the US will eventually be electric. That is going to happen.
Mhm.
It is a matter of the marketplace coming around to the idea, but it is going to happen at one way or another. It is clear, however, given the results of the election, that the environment for selling electric vehicles is going to be different. There will not be as many incentives as there were, and there will be a great incentive from Washington to the car makers in the US to continue and increase production of internal combustion engine vehicles. And again, and as always, this is not a political podcast, or a political show, nor should it be one. But as Lindsey Graham himself noted a few weeks ago, elections have consequences, and this is one of the consequences. So it's going to be harder for Lucid to sell these cars when they come out, because the Lucid dealer will not be able to say, oh, well, and you take that price and you knock $7,500 off of it. That kind of incentive isn't going to be around. And there are other companies that are more established, are better known, have better dealer networks, and are more sort of renowned for making and selling vehicles, who are also playing in this space. The Lucid Gravity is a great looking car. I happen to think the Cadillac Lyriq is really good looking as well, and it's in about the same price point. Mercedes and BMW have really compelling offerings at this price point. And I think there's a lot of competition here. And also, frankly, if there's any knock on the Lucid, it's that it is a little bit streamlined for being an SUV. Would I rather have a Lucid Gravity that looks like a Lucid Air only jacked up, or would I rather have a Rivian R1S, which looks like an SUV and does a lot of the same things? In fact, probably more of the things in terms of traditional SUV type stuff. I think that's a question that they're going to need to answer. And I saw something the other day that sort of detailed how much money Lucid is losing on every car it makes, and it's a staggering amount of money. But right now, for its money people, which include a lot of interests in Saudi Arabia, if that's of interest to you, that hasn't been a big deal. But now Fisker is gone again. And Rivian is finally going to get some help building that second plant that it wants to build in Georgia, thanks to $6.5 billion in loan guarantees from the outgoing administration. That'll certainly help. And by gosh, Tesla still manages to sell a whole bunch of cars and SUVs that are all electric in the US. And while the environment for EVs will be maybe not all that hospitable, I have a very sneaking suspicion that things for Tesla in the next 4 years will be very good indeed, for reasons that are covered pretty well elsewhere, I think. So it's a great car. It's a beautiful car. I don't know if that's enough.
Go ahead, your thoughts?
I have to concur with everything that Jeff said. It is a beautiful car. It's a beautiful line of cars, and I admire them for pushing design language forward without overreaching and trying to make it look space age. It just, so many of these Cybertruck things that are coming out are just preposterous looking. This is not the case. This is a really gorgeous vehicle. I will say it doesn't really say off-roading by any stretch. So,
But
I think at some point or another, we're going to need to come up with terminology for the all-wheel drive, station wagon proportion vehicle that is not meant to go off-road, as opposed to the ones that are.
I constantly hear soft roader.
Soft roading. There you go. Which, I don't know. I guess that sounds like most of the roads here in Connecticut, a little soft. It's true. We have bad roads. But yeah, they're expensive. And it's a smaller company, and I would worry about that, would I drive one? Yeah, in a heartbeat. I don't know if I have the money for one, to be honest with you. But
this one is priced like in that $80,000 range. That's what they're talking. I'm sure there's ones that are higher than that, but that's kind of the base.
Which is crazy that I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh, that's not so bad. Think about this for a moment.
You're right. In that part of the market, it's pretty much right in the sweet spot.
Right.
That's kind of where everybody is.
Absolutely. You made a great point about the Lyriq, and I've been picking on Cadillac quite a bit in our little space here. But I did actually stand next to a Lyriq the other day. One of the realtors that showed up for a house showing that I had to go to came in a beautiful blue Lyriq, and it really turned the head. So I was like, at first I was like, wait, what? And then I realized, and I was like, okay, that's a nice looking car. It's a brand we all know, Is it a little stodgy, maybe? I don't know. I'm the guy who just bought a Buick, so I know all about stodgy, right? But my car is not stodgy. That's the other thing. And I don't think the Lyriq is either. And I think a lot of Cadillac's offerings are not. It's just the process of rebranding. I digress. There are other things out there that have a little bit more brand knowledge and a little bit of comfort there. You're buying a Cadillac, you're buying a GM, you're buying one of the largest companies in the United States. You're buying a Lyriq, they're new, they're a little experimental. You have to be that person that's going to be putting yourself out there to buy this car. I hope they do. But to that end, your comment about the political environment for electrical vehicles becoming bad in the next 4 years, I think I don't really want to go into politics either, but we can't be talking about cars and not be talking about the politics behind them. And
because cars are so heavily regulated, the car industry is so heavily regulated, so there's an overlap.
Absolutely. And there are probably 10,000 videos out there of somebody assaulting Pete Buttigieg on the House or Senate floor about how electrical vehicles are being forced down Americans' necks. And and this is coming from one side of the political aisle, not both. Let's be honest, okay? And I just don't know what kind of an environment that's going to create for electrical vehicles over the next 4 years. Worries me actually, because we're starting to see so much growth in an area where we need to, and we have to keep up with the rest of the world on this. We want to, but whenever I say something like that, then I see a meme somewhere about, electrical cars bursting into flames and people dying horrible deaths, all
Right,
this
right,
crap.
because most cars don't have a container of flammable liquid in them.
Right, right,
Right.
Right.
You have to think of it. Go ahead, Jeff.
so
No, that we've talked before in this little corner of the internet about the fact that EV adoption in the US was never going to be linear. And we are, I think, hitting a little bit of a plateau. Sales are growing, not as much as they had. And part of the reason for that is a lack of really reliable charging infrastructure.
Mhm.
If you don't own a house or you don't work in a place that has a charging station that isn't borked half the time, thank you, Electrify America, then the use case for an EV is very difficult because you're not going to charge it up while you're shopping at Whole Foods. It's just there just isn't enough time. And so, it's going to be a little bit of a step. And this is one of those steps where you're not probably going to see a lot of public funded improvement in charging infrastructure. You may see private industry do that, although given that Tesla has gutted the supercharger network, I'm not sure if there's anyone who's willing to take up that slack. That's just kind of where we are, and that is the environment in which the Lucid Gravity finds itself.
right,
And
right.
one will see what happens, but it is I really, it's funny. I really liked the Fisker Ocean a lot. I thought it was a super cool looking SUV. Unfortunately, it was a Henrik Fisker company, which means that it was kind of, it had 3 flat tires when it left the truck. But I thought that was really tidy too. And with better support, maybe he could have hung on long enough to sell them, but apparently not. Hopefully Lucid does not share that fate, because the thing that drives innovation in this country has always been competition, and we always need more of that and not less.
And less protectionism. And I constantly say this, it's like we used to have a buggy whip industry in this country. And you can maintain kind of that legacy sort of stuff, but eventually it's just gonna, it's not gonna do anyone any good. I think the Gravity is a really great looking vehicle. It solves, from my understanding of the people who've like sat in it, it solves one of the problems that I had with the Air, in that I kept hitting my head when I got in and out of it. And so the A-pillar is not as, flat.
It's not as fast a rake. I see.
Right. Yeah. And so that is good. And like we always say, I wish them the best. I hope that they get, because I think they've spent a lot of time working on the dynamics of the car. And I would like to see that they've done that on this SUV. And maybe there should have been a time machine where they should have come up with the SUV first, which I think is Rivian's, plus, because they sort of looked at it and said, okay, well, that's where the market is. Why don't we go there? So that's probably beneficial for them. But they're both selling, I haven't looked at sales figures in a while, but my impression is like neither one of them are selling more than 10,000 cars a year at this point.
No, I think that's right. Yeah.
And and then so Tesla has gotten beyond the idea of like, well, there's no dealers down the street, but I don't think the other places have, because even then they're like way far away, so anyway, we wish them the best. Beautiful cars, hope that it all works out well. And with that, we're going to bring this to a close tonight. If you have comments, please leave them on the YouTube page. You can find more Car-Pinionated episodes on the YouTube or on Fox 61 Plus. And with that, we will bid you a fond farewell.